My name is Mary Emily Duba, and I am the Assistant Professor of Theology at the University of Dubuque Theological Seminary. Today, I'm here with the Reverend Dr. Abby Mohaupt. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
For the past 8 years, I've been teaching a class, co-teaching with a colleague of mine, Dr. Chris James, a class called The Gospel in Context. And one of the contributions that I've made to this class is helping seminarians to think about what is the gospel in an ecological context. Mm-hmm. So as we're helping our students to discern, what does the gospel look like and sound like and taste like in this particular context? We often turn to the category of neighbors. Who are the neighbors that surround our congregations? Who are the people and the institutions and the activities and the cultures in which we are called to proclaim and embody the good news? For me, this raises the question of who are our neighbors in an ecological sense? Mm-hmm. Who are our ecological neighbors? For me, the category of the watershed is a way to answer that question. It is a way to think about ourselves as inhabiting a kind of ecological neighborhood. And so when we think about the ways that we inhabit watersheds, we realize that we are given in that ecological neighborhood both upstream and downstream neighbors that are bound to us by this water. So it puts the question of who is my neighbor in a more ecological perspective, but it also puts the question of who is our neighbor in terms of communities who are upstream and downstream from us, to whom we have a kind of ethical obligation to share this common resource.
Yeah, and isn't there somebody who says, do unto me as, isn't there some kind of,
yes.
Who says that? Do you remember?
Wendell Berry, the poet and essayist Wendell Berry says, do unto those downstream as you would have those upstream do unto you.
Yeah. He's a farmer and
he's a farmer,
and so
and
he
a poet,
knows how we need water for our food systems, and he wrote the manifesto Mad Farmer Liberation Front. Do you know that poem?
I do.
That ends with, like, he's really talking about dismantling economic systems in service of generations of ecology.
Yes.
And says that by doing that, we're practicing resurrection.
This is the way we practice resurrection.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's all connected.
So you also have a practice of neighborliness when it comes to your ecological neighbors. And I wonder if you could talk just a little bit about some practices that you have for getting to know your ecological neighbors.
Yeah. So I first started this practice in relationship to lots of mentors and friends who said, along, as you are saying too, that like our neighbors are not just the human ones. They're, when you walk out your door, like they're all the creation that's around you, right? And so I have a friend who started a practice during COVID of getting to know the names of all the plants around her, and like going to be with them and taking pictures and getting to know them. When I lived on a farm, I joined this farm soon after the farmers acquired this land from the previous owners, and we spent a year getting to know the place before we started changing anything. Mostly so that we knew, okay, how do water lines change? How does the land react to different seasons? What's happening? Much in the same way that, like, if you're in a human neighborhood, you don't like necessarily jump right in and start changing things. Like, you stop and listen and pay attention. And so for me, there's a couple practices that I think of when I'm getting to know my neighbors. My non-human neighbors, right? Is one practice is to walk places instead of moving quickly by car or bus or train or even bike, right? Like doing all of those things, sometimes necessary, right? But sometimes it's too quick. You can't pay attention. You can't see what's surrounding. You're just focusing on where you're going. And so slowing down and walking and paying attention to what you're walking by. Like, oh, that tree is right there. And oh, what is that kind of tree? And having space and time and slowness. to pay attention, right? So that's one practice, is to walk places. Another practice is to get to know those things by name. And so you can take a photo of something and then click on the iNaturalist, the app, and get to know the name of that species. And we've been particularly using that as we get to know the difference between cedars and junipers and other evergreens, which is, they're all in the same kind of tree family, but they're very different from each other, and for me, like, I'm still learning the difference between them. And so to stop and pay attention and to learn their names. And then the third practice to get to know our neighborhood has been to go anywhere with my child, who's 4, right? And she's shorter than me, obviously, and everything is new. And so it's hard to take anything for granted, right? She's only had 4 seasons, right, in this neighborhood. And so she's still like, she stops and asks questions, and it takes an hour to walk half a mile to school every day. And so we stop and talk about what's happening, or we say thank you to the plants when we're watering them, or have conversations about the different kinds of tomatoes. So learning our neighbors together, her and I, means that I am committed to answering her questions or figuring out the answers if she has them, right? And because our relationship is what it is, we also are talking about like how taking care of our plants or getting to know them are connected to who we are and the family of God and the family of creation, and like these are our neighbors, and look at how this plant is growing in this season, and quizzing each other about like, do you remember what this is called? And pausing and saying, I don't yet, so let me ask it again, just like you would ask a person that you would meet, like, what's your name?
I forgot your name.
What's your name again? And just pausing and taking that time. So those are the 3 of the practices that I think of in our community.
I love that.
Yeah.
One of the fun things you mentioned, walking the neighborhood with your daughter, and one of the things I've been doing with my kids lately is we've had the privilege of participating in a program put on by Dubuque County Conservation called the Mowing to Monarchs program.
Cool.
And so we, a couple years ago, transformed a part of our lawn into a native pollinator garden. And it's been really fun for all of us to learn the names of those plants, which don't sort of just naturally appear always in our neighbors, like on our daily commute, because people are putting grass in and hydrangeas and things like this. But getting to know the names of those plants that really belong here as a part of the native ecosystem of this watershed has been really fun. And we've been talking about it in terms of the Christian practice of hospitality. What does it mean we talk about hospitality at church or to human neighbors, but what does it mean to practice hospitality toward pollinators and mosses and the kind of soil bacteria that populate when we have these healthy native plants in our yards? So that's been really fun, and we've used that app as well to learn to identify them, and then, as you said, watch them through all seasons. What is their life cycle like? When do you collect the seed? What helps them to flourish? When do they go into their dormancy for the winter? And letting the seasons of our local ecosystem actually shape our own lives in a certain sense. Now we collect seed. Now we go dormant in a way for the winter. Things quiet down. Now is the time for growth and planting. So that's been fun in a sense to welcome children into the cycle of the seasons through the lives of these plants. And that those plants they're native, but they're returning back, right? Yes.
And that you are making space for them to return back.
Right. Both of us, well, you are from the Midwest region.
From Northern Illinois,
I'm quite a transplant here. I come from the West Coast mountain kind of ecosystem, the Cascade Mountains. And so for us, it's been a bit of a transition to learn to inhabit this place, to learn to be at home here. I was thinking of these native prairie plants. When you come from the mountains, you always miss them because they're such a monumental part of our, just the whole total landscape. And so I said when we moved here, I need to learn to love the prairie. And it has not been easy. This is not my it's not what I first think of as beautiful. But I am learning to love it. And one of the things that I've learned to love is the way these grasses, you can see crosscuts, of the soil, how deep these roots are.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, 15, 20 feet deep, maybe more.
Yeah.
And I think about, what does it mean to put down
Yeah.
roots in a place and really become an inhabitant of a place, the way these plants are? And what would that mean for me to put down roots like that?
Yeah. Well, and the prairie grasses put down roots that low, like that deep, in order to withstand fire.
Yes.
And so that the roots make them resilient.
Yeah.
And it's you just saying that makes me think about like how I grew up in Northern Illinois and then finished seminary, went to California for my first and second calls, and then I went to New Jersey and came back to California, and then I went to Texas, and I just felt so unrooted, even as I was going to these different places to learn those spaces and those people, and being in the presence of beautiful things like the redwoods and the Atlantic Ocean and huge farmland. But I think that the deep roots in the Midwest helped me be resilient as I was being transplanted, right?
Yes.
And being able to see, okay, I'm following God's call wherever this looks, literally back and forth across the country, right? And then I'm coming home to my roots, to go back to Northern Illinois, come back to these deep roots.
Yeah.
It just makes me think about like how much getting to know our place, knowing our place, coming back to the place.
That's right.
Helps us understand who we are.
And we live in you could almost say a hyper-mobile time, whether people are moving for careers or whether they're displaced people moving for reasons of, immigration or work of a different kind or a new life. Thinking about this Mowing to Monarchs pocket prairie, the other thing that it's taught me is part of the way we use our deep roots in a place is to welcome the migrant, to welcome those who are only stopping through but absolutely need an oasis, a place that has rich food for them and safe dwelling places. All of that is part of the way we can be neighbors for others. Even
the monarchs that are literally on the move. They're literally migrating.
On their way to Mexico.
Right.
We just watched them. We just watched them go.
To become, the pocket park says, or the pocket prairies as sanctuaries.
Sanctuaries, yes. We both serve the church in various capacities, working at seminaries, and you as an ordained pastor in the PCUSA. I wonder what it would look like to more fully invite people of faith, but specifically congregations, to think about the ways that they are inhabiting their own place and the ways that they are inhabiting the land and the watersheds and their relationships with human and non-human neighbors for the good of creation, for the glory of God. Do you have practices for inviting churches into this?
I think, so much of my work thinking about congregations, doing ecological work, is rooted in the Presbyterian Church's Earth Care Congregation program that's gone on for more than a decade. There's like hundreds of churches in this program that invite congregations to think about how they're connected to creation through their buildings, through worship, through their connections to their partners, to how they're doing food in their places of worship, how they're thinking about music and like what they're bringing into the worship space, and that all of those ways are possibilities to connecting who we are as a faith community to the larger ecosystems in which we live. And the fact that there's all those different categories of action, on the one hand can seem kind of overwhelming, but it also says, wait, you just find a way. And whatever way is good, right? And I've been sitting with this Presbyterian congregation, the last couple of weeks, thinking about Psalm 148 and the Genesis creation stories. And we've gone out every week with the gardener in this congregation who's taken us around to the gardens to say, look, this is what we planted, or this is a volunteer, or this shouldn't be here, but actually I think we're going to transplant it here. And he's helped us understand the place around this congregation, and talking about putting solar panels or not on and why you might not be able to, or why you should, and those practices of getting to know the plants around you, getting to know what are the infrastructure changes that you could do, or why you can't do them, is really fascinating. And I think really important to this conversation is that not every congregation has to do everything, that there's social contexts to who has the ability to do what, and what makes sense. And that every congregation is they'll more likely to take on practices that fit their cultural reality. And that the gift is that we get to respond diversely. Because we're all in an ecosystem together.
Absolutely. When you said infrastructure projects, I was thinking about how most churches are stewards of some kind of a parking lot.
Correct.
Which is really important for watershed health. Where is the water going that runs off our parking lot? It seems mundane, but this is part of watershed stewardship. Where's that water going? Into whose drinking water? Into whose basements?
How is it flooding or not? Like, how can we, yes, this like really simple thing of like, how do we steward this parking lot that like is often filled with asphalt that then doesn't create any kind of way for water to go, and so then we're contributing to flooding, which impacts both human and non-human. Or do we like put in
permeable,
concrete that lets the water go where it needs to in the ecosystem? Or do we help it run off into a garden or whatever? Like this teeny tiny way to like work with the water system. Abby,
I want to thank you for being here with us today. It's a joy to have you here with us at the University of Dubuque, and we thank you for bringing all of your gifts and your wisdom to us today.
Thanks for having me.